My name is Jonathan Bannister. I'll be the co-host today and hosting today's webinar. With me is Shane Studer. Shane, you want to introduce yourself?
I mean, you've probably seen a couple videos of my ugly face. One was in a Pink Panther suit to fire off the new year. I'm Shane. I'm in charge of contractor engagement and most especially the York channel. So thank you all for joining. I just want to say one more thing about your podcast behind you, Home Service Hustle is a podcast that we're doing, and we're about to drop at least 12 episodes, correct? So we're going to start doing a podcast as well. So please look out for that.
Yeah. So, everyone, today's webinar, we're going to be discussing your 2022 marketing plan. We're going to dive a little deeper into the numbers and kind of how you should be forecasting your lead flow, where you should be getting those leads from, and letting you pick our brains for any questions that you may have. So with that, let's get started. And guys, more and more people keep jumping in. So as you come in, just please, if you wouldn't mind dropping where you're joining us from and maybe a little weather update, because we are in a weather-driven business.
And just to let you know, I am emailing the link to someone right now. So if one of your compadres can't get in, you give me their information and I'll send them the link to make sure they get into the webinar.
Awesome. So with that, I am going to get the presentation going. Here we go. And guys, feel free to drop in the chat. Myself and Shane will be monitoring the chat. There's also down at the bottom, you'll have an option, you'll see like a little hand. Feel free to click that and it will raise your hand if you have a particular question. We do not want to pass up any section of the webinar if you do have questions that you want to ask us. So here we go. So again, what we're going to be covering your internet marketing of 2022. And we're going to be setting goals for your 2022 season. We're going to try to establish how many booked leads that we need to hit in order to hit your goals. We're going to talk about optimizing your website for conversion. What does that look like? What does conversions even mean? We're going to cover all of that. The big picture of online marketing channels, we're going to talk about which ones that you should be utilizing, which ones you should be getting the maximum lead flow from your online reputation. We're going to develop a custom plan based on where you are now, where you want to be. That'll be for anyone who wants to take it to that next level, kind of look at what we're talking about here, and then want something customized for them. We want to help each and every one of you on the call today. So just a little, ground rules. We just ask everybody to turn your cell phones on silent. Let's log out of Facebook and let's really get focused to make sure that we can take your 2022 to all the places that you want it to, right? More importantly, we just want to hit your goals. And I'm telling you, I talk to hundreds of contractors every single month, and every one of you guys have goals. And there may be small goals and maybe big goals. Some are astronomical goals, right? But at the end of the day, we know whether that's buying a new house, putting a kid through college, going from 4 million to 8 million, there's goals in place, and we want to help you figure out how to establish those goals and be able to hit them and make 2022 one of the most successful years that you've had in business. So with that, if you stay to the end, let's see. All right, so if you stay to the end, we're going to give every single person on here the ultimate HVAC online checklist, right? And we're going to cover everything on this checklist, but this is a little go-to guide that you can give to your marketing manager or your marketing company that you're with, just to make sure that you are, checking every single one of these off the list, because these are all things that you should be doing to have a successful digital marketing, framework, digital footprint. All right, so Shane, you ready?
I'm ready, I think.
Let's go.
All right, so once again, I'm Shane. For you guys that just joined, I'm the head of contractor engagement here at Cornerstone Marketing, and my job is mainly the org channel. So you guys are my priority, and I look forward to working with y'all this year.
So this is who we are, and when it says this is what we do, you know, these images mean a lot to me, because what the number one thing that I see when I look at some of these images, what we do is we build relationships first. It is important to me. It always has been since day one of starting this company, is making sure that our clients are more than just clients. I think the picture that you see in the top middle of myself and Shane and one of our clients, Dylan Rucker out of California, this was just a couple months ago at an event. We're actually out in Sacramento having dinner. And when I posted this, I said, you know, what's important to me is turning a client into a friend. And that's at the end of the day, that's what we're looking for. We want long time, you know, relationships and partnerships. We are looking for a partnership. We are looking to be an extension of your company. So that's what all of these images mean to me. These are either business partners or clients that you see here. So I'm very proud of this, because this is what we, you know, one of our core values at Cornerstone is making sure that we are turning, you know, clients' relationships into friendships. All right, so what's the hardest part about marketing your HVAC business online in 2022? Well, for one, I think we can all agree that this used to be the way of marketing, right? Like, and there's probably a few of us on the call that remember the days that when we used this thing called the Yellow Book, and you could have a business called, you know, ABC Heating and Air. You could get the first position of the niche that you were in, and you could pay the most amount of money to have the biggest ad, and you were pretty successful. Well, we all know that these things are now used to start fires in the parts of the country where it's cold. I mean, maybe even in Miami today, it's 75. You may be using a phone book to start a fire. Who knows? Because we know y'all don't have furnaces down in Miami. So this is no longer, you know, the way to generate leads. So where did the customers go? Well, I think we all know that they are now online in some way, form, or fashion. 97% of all the customers, and I would say that this number is probably outdated, and it's probably closer to 99.9% of the customers are now online. And that could be from social media platforms. It could be from, you know, search engines. It could be from, you know, third-party, you know, partners like Yelp and Angie's List, whatever, but they're still online. And you have to figure out how you're going to tap into those sources to generate leads for your business. So when we're talking about one of our clients, I wanted to bring one of our clients into the conversation to kind of talk about the success that we've had with them, but make it to, you know, bring it down to a place where people could understand. Because I'm sure all of us on the call today, you know, that are an HVAC owner or plumbing contractor owner can all talk about where we started. You know, granted, sometimes we're going to work into business with our father or grandfather, and we're going to take over that business. But a lot of times, you know, we started out working somewhere else, and then we decided to, you know, go out on our own. And we started out with one truck, and we started out working from our home, and we, you know, had that, you know, that American dream, how we're going to grow the business and turn it into a success story. So I wanted to highlight one of our clients that we're extremely proud of and thankful for. We've been working with since 2017. And so a lot of things we're going to talk about today is the company's called Johnston's Heating and Cooling out of Pennsylvania. And no, they're out of Pennsylvania. And so what did we have to do to get their internet marketing right when we started working with Johnston's? Well, you know, for one, they did not have a digital footprint. You could not find them online. You know, obviously the owner, her and her husband were trying to post some things on Facebook and talking to friends and family. But look, you know, we helped them create their logo. We created their truck wraps for them. Like, we started at the bottom, and I'm super happy to share with you, you know, kind of where they are today. So we had to get them on the search engines. You know, Google is king, right? At the end of the day, that is where people are going to search. You know, obviously you got Bing and Yahoo as well, but Google is still going to make up for 85% of all searches that are done on the internet today. So they had to get found on Google, and they needed a solid foundation. And when I talk about foundation for any part of this webinar today, I am talking about the website, because at the end of the day, no matter which marketing channels you're doing, people are going to end up back at your website. And that website has to be set up and ready to convert those visitors into booked leads or booked calls. So how do you own the internet in your area? Now, this would be a great place that I would love some people to drop some comments of, what do you feel is some of the top things you can do to own the internet, the digital space in your area? And what are some of the things that you're currently doing? So just drop those. Shane will be monitoring, and he can kind of let me know what some things are being said. But for us, we kind of like to look at this wheel here, right? Like, these are all different verticals that you could be doing, right? Everybody needs to have a strong foundation, which is going to be your website. And then we truly believe wholeheartedly that your SEO, you know, your organic SEO, your GMB presence is the most valuable for your business. That needs to be conquered. That always needs to be being worked on, because it is, you know, we've got the data to back it up. It is responsible for 50 to 70% of all of our clients' booked calls that come in. So when you think about that, it is always, in my opinion, it's going to be your cheapest cost per lead that you can ever generate. So making sure that your SEO is always very strong, that you're always fighting to either, you know, dominate and stay on top, or to crawl your way to the top at all times. Because, you know, there's so many changes. There's hundreds of changes to the Google algorithm every single year. But one thing that stays pretty consistent is that the organic SEO is still a dominating factor when it comes to lead generation. So strongly encourage it. All right, obviously we got PPC, we've got paid search, you know, anything that's, you know, pay per click, you know, that could be Google AdWords. Bing and Yahoo all have their pay per click version. We've got retargeting. We've got, you know, Facebook retargeting. You can do YouTube retargeting, Instagram retargeting. You know, at the end of the day, anybody who comes to your website, anybody who comes to a landing page of yours on Google AdWords, anybody who hits one of your Facebook ads, you want to make sure that you've got a retargeting pixel in there, and that you are retargeting those folks on multiple different channels, but so that you have this omni approach marketing campaign that's always staying in front of these people. Because as we know, we have to touch people 7, 8, 9, 10 times before sometimes they're ready to make a decision. Sometimes they need to do a little more research about you, and sometimes they're just not ready to pull the trigger. We got referral programs. You know, all of us should have a good referral program. We know how important referrals are to our business. So, you know, having a $500 off a new system on the back of a business card, or sending out postcard referrals to customers, or maybe even newsletters or SMS text messaging campaigns, big, you know, business, and super important to make sure that we are nurturing business and good referrals from our past and previous customers. Drip email campaigns, SMS text messaging data. You know, we're going to talk a little deeper into some of these in a minute. Social media advertising, you know, guys, look, if you're not on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, you know, just there and posting on a consistent basis, you're missing out on a lot of opportunity and exposure. And if you are not running paid advertisement and retargeting campaigns, we truly feel that you're missing out on a lot of opportunities. And then paid online directories. Obviously, the biggest one that's out there is Yelp. We've just recently joined the Yelp partnership, and we are proud of some of the API integrations and stuff that we're going to be able to sync up and integrate to put some of our automation and things in place to make sure that the lead follow-up times are instant, right? Because that is so important today. It's not just about generating leads. You got to generate high quality leads, and we've got to make sure that we're nurturing those leads properly as they come in. So where should someone start when they're talking about their online presence and building that digital footprint? I always feel strongly about the 4 pieces of real estate of Google. Okay, so what I mean by that is when someone says, where should I start? I'm starting a new business. I always say, well, Google is king. So own as much of Google as you possibly can, and that's all going to determine, based on your budget and different things like that. But at the end of the day, there's 4 opportunities on any Google search when we're talking about the home service space. So those 4 pieces are local service ads, your Google guaranteed. So that's going to be at the top of the screen now for, I think the last 4.5 years. This is some version of a pay for play. It is a bidding process. Now, it's not bidding on keywords like Google AdWords is, but it's still bidding on, in that area, which contractor is willing to pay the most money for that particular lead. I would say that this is a very good lead source. The leads that come from Google local service ads are usually high quality, and they tend to convert at an 85 to 90-ish% conversion numbers. The number one problem I hear from most of our customers is they just cannot get enough of the leads. There was a time back in 2016, 2017, that these leads were $25. They were much more accessible of getting an abundant amount of them. And that was because there just wasn't a lot of people that knew about it, because Google kind of laid it out slowly, rolled it out slowly, started in the Northwest, like the Seattle region, did a beta test. At the time, I'm not sure if this information has changed, but at the time, this was the longest beta tested program that Google ever ran. They knew that this was going to be big business for them. And then eventually they rolled it out to California. And then I think it was like 9 or 10 cities, major hubs around the country. And then they kind of branched off from those major hubs and kind of spread. Today, it's pretty much available everywhere across the country. There is a registration process, and you have to go through background checks. Yep, go ahead.
All right, a question from Jacob. When you guys partner with a dealer, do you help them set up the process of Google Guarantee? And what is the average cost per lead on a replacement for Google Guarantee leads?
Yeah, so we can help them with that process and help the contractor out. There are some components of the setup process that obviously we can't do. They have to submit their insurance information. They've got to go through the background checks. We can help them set that process up, but obviously they have to submit the information. But yes, we can help them with that. We can help them manage that. We can pull that information all into our reporting dashboard, which we do for many of our clients. We can also put automation in place that if some of these leads were not successful when we called, they did not answer or something, that we can drop them into like our rehash program to make sure that the system will continue to follow up with them until we are successfully able to book that call, or they tell us, it was an accident or they weren't interested. So yes,
do we know how much they're going for nowadays, those leads?
It varies different parts of the country, Jacob. That's that whole bidding process. I would say on average right now, most of our clients are seeing anywhere between 40 to like 65 or 70 on replacement ads. I think that sweet spot somewhere around that 55 or 60. But again, there's just, unfortunately, and I think Google keeps making changes to this, that there's no rhyme or reason to the algorithm currently. When they rolled this out, they said it was going to be different than AdWords. It wasn't going to be a pay for play game. That's why, everybody loved the $25 a lead. I remember having this conversation with many clients, like, man, if I could just get more of those. I'm like, well, I'm sure you would like a couple thousand of those $25 like perfect leads. But then once more and more contractors got on it, those leads, obviously there wasn't as many to share and go around, but there just doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason. Like our clients go, we've got it maxed out. We've got it set to $1 million budget. I've got it set to the highest I can go per day. And they just can't get enough of them because there's just not enough, right? Like there's only going to be so much demand that's going there. Then there's going to be so much demand that's going to Google AdWords. And then the rest of the demand is going to go to Google 3-pack maps. So the demand is just being spread over these 4 pieces right now. So I'm curious to see in the future, because obviously, as we're looking at these 4 pieces, only technically 2 of them make money, as far as revenue towards Google. So I'm real curious to see what the future is going to play out. But I think, they've made Google Maps such a strong presence, and it is essentially an organic piece that's based off of your location. And look how much of the search page that Google Maps takes up. So we are happy and feel very confident that Google Maps and Google Organic are still going to be super important and a big piece of everything with Google moving forward. So that's our hope, because we love paid advertising. We know that we can go out there and put money into the hands of Google or Facebook or TikTok or wherever it may be to generate leads for our clients. But at the end of the day, when we talked about those numbers, we want 50, 60, 70% of our clients' lead flow coming from GMB and organic. It's the lowest cost per lead. And at the end of the day, it just should be a must, right? And I'll just get real simple and not go too much in the weeds on SEO. But for us, it's all about content. All right. So whoever you're using to do your SEO, high quality content and a lot of it. The content needs to be service pages. It needs to be city pages. It needs to be press releases. It needs to be blogs. It needs to be, work that you guys have done, like before and after, content based on that work, based on that city. There's just so much that can be written, but at the end of the day, it's content. So, I mean, for a lot of our clients, we're writing 4, 6, 8, 12 pieces of content per month and making sure that it's getting optimized by Google and that we're ranking our clients as high as we possibly can on the search engines. So our 4 pieces of real estate: Google Local Service, then we have Google AdWords. You'll see there just under Google Local Service and in between Google Maps. And there's 2 ads on this particular search that we had performed, but there could be 3 there could be 1, there could be 2, and there could be 2 or 3 at the very bottom. Google just kind of makes their own mind up how many ads that they're going to show on any particular search. And then you've got Google Maps in the middle, which again takes up the most space. And then underneath Google Maps, you'll have your organic SEO, which there will always be, until Google makes some huge changes. But from the beginning of SEO, there's always been 10 spots organically on each page. And Jacob, I appreciate the question. And guys, keep the questions coming in as they come to you, because we do not want to miss any opportunity to answer a question for anyone on the call. All right, so Johnston's, right? So what do we need to do? We needed to work on a strong SEO and GMB presence. That was always our start. Again, because it's, I don't want to say it's the cheapest marketing you can do, because it by far should not be, because high quality content and an abundant amount of content written should not be cheap. But it is going to be your lowest or cheapest cost per lead. So it should be the most important to you. So for us, it was making sure that, so here they are, Chambersburg, Pennsylvania is one of the cities that they're in. So AC repair for Chambersburg, we needed to make sure that they were in the top 3 organically, in GMB. And then obviously we wanted to make sure that we ranked them in Google Organic. Today, obviously, they are on Google Guaranteed or Google Local Services. And then we do a lot of Facebook advertising and Instagram advertising for Johnston's. All right, so the results, right? So the results for us is we want the SEO, even though they've been with us from 2017, we want to make sure that our SEO is always going in the right direction. We want it to be going up. We want our SEO to get stronger, stronger, and stronger. How does it continue to get stronger? Well, we continue to spread our service area, right? Like we want to start where they're located. We want to start with the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cities that they service. And then as we start dominating the SEO results. We want to make sure that we continue to spread our circumference of their service area space. And then we want to make sure that we are tracking every single lead, every opportunity. We want to know the cost per lead. And for us, a cost per lead is a cost per book call, because we understand, and I hope everybody agrees on this call, that a lead can mean so many different things when you're talking about marketing agencies. You know, a lead to a marketing agency is something that came into your business. It's a conversion. So a conversion is a phone call or a form fill, right? So if we're only tracking phone calls, we don't know how many of those are callbacks, how many of those are a wrong phone number, looking for another contractor, looking for a service that you don't provide, right? So we can't look at things as just phone calls. We need to understand how many booked calls are coming in and where did those book calls come from? Well, how did we know that? Because, you know, yes, there's CRMs and dispatch softwares out there that supposedly do a pretty good job at this. We still see major flaws, even with dedicated tracking numbers, when it's using software to try to determine where that lead came from. We see flaws. So at the end of the day, for us, we listen and analyze every single call that comes in for our clients, because we just want to know. So everything's on a tracking number, individual tracking numbers, but we still want to listen to those calls and really determine where that call came from. So this was big for Johnson's, because it was easy for us to say, okay, well, this is where we need to put more money and attention to, because we're getting the most leads from SEO, or we're getting, you know, we're getting leads from AdWords at a cost per lead that we're comfortable with, so we can put more money there if we want to, or if we need to generate more leads. All right, so what it meant for them. Like, so let's talk about where Johnson's is today. So here's a quote that I just got from the owner of Johnson's a couple of days ago. And she said, we started a business in 2016. We started out with 2 guys, the owner and his son, using our home garage, personal truck, and a pull behind trailer. 2017, we started working with Cornerstone Marketing Solutions. We had less than 50 maintenance agreements. All business was word of mouth. I ran estimates and appointments in the evenings while working a full-time in another job. We did less than 200,000 in total sales that year. That was from Sandy Johnson. Love her to death. She's been great to us, and she's proud to tell the success story that she's had with us, and we're super thankful for her and her husband, Tommy. So what do they look like today? They have 12 employees. They have 3 install crews. They have 3 service techs. They have a new construction foreman, an office manager, a service manager, 2 office staff. They have over 1,800 maintenance agreements, and they're forecasted or projected to do 3.5 million in 2022. So, you know, this was baby steps for them, right? Like, they didn't have the budget or the resources to come out the gate and go, all right, look, we did 200,000 last year. We want to do 2 million next year. And there's a lot of contractors that I talk to that's the kind of pipe dreams, I guess we'll say, that they kind of spit out to us. And I've got pages and pages of notebooks where I'm talking to these new dealers, and I'm like, all right, well, you know, how long have you been in business? And you know, 6 years. And all right, we did 1.2 last year. And next year we want to do, you know, we want to do 2.5, or we did 2.2. We want to do 4.2. But the problem is I think a lot of people just haven't been fully transparent, or maybe it's a lack of knowledge, but they do not know how to properly articulate what is it going to take to get you to that number. And that is something I'm telling you guys, stick around to the end of this, because we are going to walk you through how to establish that number. And, you know, at the end of the day, the numbers will make sense to you. And to a lot of you, it's going to be like, wow, right? Like, that's a big number I may have to be spending. But you also have to take an honest look at yourself and go, you know, how else am I going to generate these booked leads that I need in order to hit this revenue goal that you're saying out loud that you want to establish and hit? So what would it mean to your business to be able to go from the 1 truck and working from home, and, you know, now, you know, a team of 12 or 15 and doing 3.5 million, you know, in just a few short years? And there may be a lot of you on this call that are way past that number, right? We work with contractors from $1 million to, we have one that's going to do, that did 55 million in 2021. For us, we are looking for the right partner to be in a relationship with. For us, it's about a relationship. We know we can hit the goals. We know we can generate the leads, but we are looking for someone who wants to be an extension of us and like wants to really join the Cornerstone family. So we're not looking for only a 20 or $15 million contractor. I love working with the smaller contractors and growing their business and taking their business to that next level. I get nothing more excitement out of it than watching someone literally go, we're $1 million. We've been stuck here for a couple of years. And when they say we want to hit X and they've got the time, the money, and the resources to really be able to do it, and they want to trust the plan, there's not a better reward than to see them hit that. And then, obviously they just want to keep going from that point. And we absolutely love it. So here we go, guys. Like, we're getting ready to start. Shane, I'm going to let you kick it off and then I'll fill in the gaps for you.
All right. What are your 2022 goals? I'm assuming everybody has goals, but to be honest, success is goals. All else is commentary. You have to have real goals. You have to set it. You look at this beautiful boat here in this water, looking at the mountains, but where are they going? It looks like they're going nowhere, right? If you don't have the actual goals set in front of you, where are you, excuse me, where are you going? Are you just going to repeat last year? Are you going to try to just have the same numbers, or do you want to try to get to the next level? What are your revenue goals? You should write this down. You should be planning this. How much is that monthly? Because we're a seasonal business, right? We typically peak in summer, in all of our areas. How many booked calls is that required? I don't know how many of you have seen my LinkedIn profile, but my catchphrase is putting trucks in driveways. In the end of the day, when you guys talk to me, that's all I care about. I only care about putting trucks in driveways. I don't care about all the metrics, how many impressions you've had, all these different things. That means nothing. Putting trucks in driveways is our goal. And Jonathan's going to talk just for a fractional minute about this calculator.
Yeah, so this here is something that we've created, we're extremely proud of, and it helps us and it helps our clients understand what is it going to take to be able to hit their goals, right? So we can't just look at things, for instance, and say, all right, I want to do $3 million next year in revenue. Well, doing $3 million, if you started running those numbers and looked at how many leads will it take, or how many calls, if I've got a booking rate of X, or however you want to look at it, you can't look at just the $3 million number, because that number would say you're going to have no, existing customers call you. You're not going to have any referrals. You're not going to have anything walk into your business. You need to pick up $3 million in new acquired business. And that's just not, the way that we feel that you should look at things, because at the end of the day, if you stop doing all marketing for your business right now, there's going to be some foot traffic and business that comes in through the door in 2022. It may not be what you need to survive, and you may be filing bankruptcy at some point, but there will be some business that came in if you kind of shut everything down. Especially if you have a brand and a name in the market, you're definitely going to generate calls. So we don't want to look at that top line number and go, okay, you want to do 4 million, let's figure out how to reverse engineer $4 million based off of your numbers. But quickly here, what we're looking at is when we start doing working with our clients, and this will be something that if you want to go through a deep dive after this webinar, then we will do this custom for you. But we'll look at what is your average ticket number, right? What is your average service ticket number, your average install numbers? We want to know your job cost numbers, your overhead before any ad spend on marketing. What is your overhead expenses? And then what we're going to do is we want to play with these numbers to figure out on any particular month, how many booked service calls do we need to get in the door to be able to hit your revenue dollars, right? Because this number here, this flip number, this is a flip service call into a new system replacement. The reason you see like 1 in 14, 1 in 12, 1 in 9 is, this would be like for a client of ours south of the Mason-Dixon, right? Like May, June, July, and August are going to be their prime months. So we know that it's much easier to flip a service call lead to a 9 or 10 or 11-year-old system in May, June, or July when it's 106 outside than, well, like right now, the wind chill's 15 in Dallas, but tomorrow or Friday, I think Sunday, I saw it's going to be like 65 degrees here. So we've got some bipolar weather currently, and it's going to be harder. Like right now, wind chill of 15, somebody's furnace is not working, they're calling a contractor today. But they are probably going to take the option of just putting a Band-Aid on it and waiting until next season or, something else, because, we had a bad snowstorm here last year, but we're probably, people are banking on that's probably not going to happen again for another 50 years. So now I'll just take the repair. But I'm telling you, here in Dallas in August, and your air conditioner's not working right, and it's 11 years old, and you get an option of a repair or replace, and they've done a good job of showing you all of your options and presenting you what's going to be the best efficiency and the best comfort level for your home, you're going to be able to flip that system. So we look at historical data here for your business. We want to know, hopefully you have this information in your CRM. We want to know, okay, well, last year in March, how many service calls did you run total? How many installs did you do? And we'll figure out what this flipped ratio number is. But what we're looking at is how many booked calls and how many installs based off of your real numbers is it going to take to hit that revenue that you want to do? And then over here, what we're looking at is the cost per lead. Now, you see all these different numbers here, right? 90, 95, 120, because these are just going to be, guesstimations, right? Like these are going to be forecasted numbers. What I can look up and tell you is for an on-demand call, which are going to be the most converted leads you can get, right? Like that's going to be people that are searching on Google for AC repair or furnace repair near me. So for those particular keywords, you may be looking at $50, $60, $70, $80 a click. Then it's our job to make sure that those clicks are turning into actual book calls. But even if you look at a ratio of, 1 out of every 3 or 1 out of every 4 clicks converts into a booked call, that cost per book call with a Google lead through Google AdWords could cost you $250, $300. Different markets, it can be very expensive. That's where we got to make sure that we're making the most out of every opportunity. We're selling maintenance agreements. We're turning them into lifelong customers because there's a lifetime value there, right? That we are selling IAQ equipment, that we are exhausting all of our options to them to make sure that, we are making an honest attempt to make the most revenue we possibly can out of that particular customer at that time. So the way that you get this number at somewhere that we all like, right? 85, like that's the lowest one I see set on here, 85. How do we get it there? Well, you get it there because you've got to find the marketing channels that are generating a low cost per lead. And I told you earlier, the lowest cost per lead, in my opinion, is going to come from SEO and GMB. So when you're dominating and getting 50 and 60% of your lead flow from organic SEO, it will cut your cost per lead number drastically down. So
we got to move on.
Yeah. So if you're a brand new customer and you're trying to start a business and you have no digital footprint organically, then, you're looking at a $250 cost per lead. And you'll see here, to generate 250 leads, like it may cost you $62,000 in ad spend with Google to produce that. That'd be 17% of your revenue would go towards your marketing. But how do I get that number down? I spend less money on my ad spend. How do I spend less money on ad spend? I dominate the SEO and GMB game. So, all right, now I'm going to jump back over to the presentation deck here. Shane, can you just confirm it's good? All right. And I, please continue to ask questions as you go. Shane, you want to take over this part?
Yeah. So just like he was saying before, I don't get don't get all confused by that spreadsheet. You know, there's a lot of factors that go into that's a paid ad spreadsheet. And once again, refocusing back on your website and your SEO. Your website is the foundation for all these things to run. Once again, if we know that Instagram ads are at a lower cost and they're converting better, we might take some of that Google budget and move it over there. We're always on a flow back and forth each month. Each month you're talking to your account manager, each quarter you're making decisions, whether that's monthly or quarterly, and maybe we pivot. We don't just want to set it and forget it and talk to you at the end of the year and say, oh, great, sign up with us again. That's not how we work. That's why we have that monthly call and we try to figure out what's the best avenue to create the best leads. So is your website set up for conversion? And I'll let you talk about the mobile side.
Yeah, so that's just a question that you need to ask yourself. What does your current website look like? Because, like I said, it is the hub. It should be the foundation because everything's going to drive back here. Whether it's landing pages on Google AdWords, it's landing pages on Facebook. You could run ads anywhere. A local school advertising. If you're just going to be in the football flyer or whatever that goes out, each week, you're going to put your name of your company. And you're going to normally put a phone number and a website address, right? So people are going to go back to your website, and you have to make sure that once they get to your website, do you have the converting elements in place that's going to make them want to make a decision? Like, have you captured them? Did you give them enough information? And now are you allowing them to raise their hand and make a decision? So on desktop, you want to make sure that you've got your phone number very large in the top right corner of the website. The stars here, like you see 5-star heating and air, everyone has become conditioned to stars because they understand that the ratings are so important to businesses. We can all agree, whether we're in this industry or not, that none of us want to go eat at a restaurant that's 3 point anything. And, we just don't do it unless it's an emergency. So, do you have something that is sticking out that is going to make people, notice your business or remember your business? This right here in the right-hand corner of the site, this is a pop-up widget, right? Like, do you have multiple ways for people to fill out a form, make a phone call, and then possibly if they're just stuck at work and they're not allowed to use the phone or something, do you have a feature where they can communicate through, with you via chat? Our chats that we put on our client sites actually convert and turn into text message conversations. And we like that feature because, I don't know how many of us on the call have experienced chat conversations, but if you're on your phone and you're chatting, and then you get a phone call or a distraction, or you need to send a text message to someone, you have to jump out of that chat portal. Sometimes it'll keep you in it. Sometimes as soon as you exit, it takes you out of it. And we don't want to lose that opportunity because, babies cry, doors, somebody, the postman or the UPS, or in my case, the Amazon person knocks on the door and you get distracted and you have to leave the chat. Well, we don't want to miss that opportunity from one of our potential customers that's come to our website that we've paid money to drive to that site. So if they enter a chat conversation, whenever they put their name and their phone number and email and put the first message, when we respond back to them or when our clients respond back to them, it is actually an SMS that's on their cell phone at that point. So that's a really cool feature because even if they stop communicating with us, we could pick it back up 30 minutes later and send them another text and go, hey, you had some questions. We just wanted to answer for you. Is now a good time? And we could, potentially bring that lost opportunity back in. Then on mobile here, your mobile site should look completely different than your desktop version. Why? Because the desktop version is not going to scale and fit to phones and iPads and all the different types of cell phones that are out there. So your mobile version should be completely different. This here where you see the blue bars at the top. So you've got blue and then red. So it says book service, call now. Those are called action buttons. We want to make sure that those stay front and center the whole time. So when you're actually scrolling this client's website, this blue button and red button that says book service and call now will stay there. Those are called sticky buttons. So do you have sticky button options that are helping your clients, because if they want to read a little bit of information to find out who you are you veteran owned, are you local, right? Like whatever questions they want to get answered, when they're ready to make a decision, we want to make sure that those buttons or those call to actions are right there in front of them. All right, Shane.
What 3 conversion elements will you implement on your website? I know we've discussed a lot. It's been a lot of information, but hopefully you can take away a couple things from that. What did you notice? What would you like to share? If there's anything, obviously put it in the chat. But once again, we always come back to the foundation is your website and your SEO.
All right, so here's
your numbers.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little deeper here on KPIs. We should all have some kind of forms of KPIs. It should start at call tracking. Guys, I strongly challenge and encourage each and every one of you, put a call tracking number on every marketing source that you're going to do. Even if it's a local magazine. I had a former client that wanted to do this, like it was a family member of his that was selling him on a bridal magazine in this local town or area. And he was like, it's kind of expensive. Should I do it? And I said, Cliff, you do whatever you want to do, right? Like, if you've got the budget, I'm never going to tell you not to try something. All I encourage you is put a tracking number on it. Because if you're worried about spending the money, the only way that you're going to be able to make a very smart, educated decision on should I continue on with this marketing source is to put a tracking number on there. And guys, listen, there's a difference between marketing and advertising and lead generation and branding. They're completely different. So if he came to me and said, I'm thinking about wanting to run an ad in this magazine for my brand, I would say, great. Like we can put a tracking number on it, or we don't even have to, because if it's for branding and you're trying to strengthen your brand, then do that. But if you're actually worried and concerned about the money and generating a positive ROI on that marketing source, the only way you can do that is by putting a tracking number in place. And then obviously, taking it to the steps that we do by listening to all those calls and analyzing and building out spreadsheets to say, this marketing source here generated this amount of calls. And of those calls, these were old customers, these were new customers. These are the ones that we heard your dispatchers book on the job board in your CRM. Then we take it to the next place with our clients to say, of those ones that got booked, what revenue was generated from those actual booked calls? Because then that's when we want to get to the nitty-gritty and make sure that we're not just hitting the lead flow that we need to, but that we're actually generating the revenue that we need to. And it's all based on that spreadsheet that we went over, because remember, each month is going to be different, because unfortunately we don't own restaurants, right? We own HVAC and plumbing businesses. So we typically are going to be month to month because of the weather, because each month we're in a different weather, different season of our business. So if we're up in the north, we may have strong winters. We may have, a couple months in the summer. If we're down in the south, we've got those 4, 5, 6 peak months in the summer. And we just pray that, you get a couple cold snaps in there to generate some calls in that shoulder season. But because we're a weather generated business, we have to look at it month to month, and we can't, we're not just going to say, oh, I want to do 4 million in revenue. I'm going to divide it by 12. And that's the amount of revenue I need to hit each month. Well, no, it's not going to work that way, because we're not going to generate the same revenue in October or November as we are in June or July. It's just never going to happen. Okay. So call tracking, we need to figure out what the average cost per call generated is. And we need some kind of dashboard that measures these KPIs that we're talking about. So for us, this is kind of a snapshot of our dashboard. So this is the lead flow dashboard. This is the overall KPI board. And really for us, this is where we want our clients to live. We want our clients to know how much money they spent last month, how many booked calls came in, what was that average cost per book call, and then what lead sources did those calls come from? Was it from SEO? Was it from Google AdWords? Did it come in from Google Local Services? social media? Was it through Facebook ads that we were running? Was it email marketing? Was it direct mail? Was it door hangers? Whatever the lead source is, we want to make sure that we have a tracking number in place, and we're establishing to our client, where did he get those book calls from? Because look, at the end of the day, if door hangers is a successful lead source for one of our clients, great, because it is super cheap, right? Like we're producing, 5,000 door hangers for a few $100 or something. And absolutely, if it's working for them, and their guys are actually going out and hanging them on doors, we want to keep producing that. If Google AdWords is a success for one of our clients in a certain market, and the SEO is obviously harder to establish because they're in somewhere like Miami or Dallas or San Francisco, there's a lot of competition. Because remember, in Google 3-pack, there's only 3 spots that come up, and then you got to hit the see more button. All right. So there's a lot of competition in some of those major markets that are trying to get into that 3-pack. Then you've got, SEO when there's only 10 spots on page 1. Well, when you've got the 4 pieces of real estate, which I think, on average can be 10, 13, let's call it 18 to 22 potential spots on any search page now. If there's that many options on one page, nobody's going to page 2, and they're definitely not going to page 3 and on. So you have to make sure that you're owning as much as the, real estate of page 1 that you possibly can.
All right. So far, we're talking about having clear goals and targets for 2022. We've made sure our website is optimized. We've set up a simple KPI tracking dashboard. Once again, you want to track everything that we do, everything that we put out. All right. Building your plan for 2022. Once again, it goes back to something we've already mildly discussed, is our wheel and where are we going to put our money? Obviously, our number 1 is SEO, getting your website running, taking that 3, 6, 8 months, a year to get that organic stuff moving up. We're going to talk real quick about some key trends here in 2022.
Yeah, so for the big thing, I think I would strongly encourage everyone to look at and consider is going to be lead nurturing, or lead handling, I should say, and then rehash. All right. So when I talk about lead nurturing or lead handling, what are you doing when a lead comes in? What does your company do? How do they handle leads that come in? So we test this out all the time. Shane and one of our other sales team members, Drew, they do this when they are going through a strategy session with one of our customers. They are filling out forms on the client's website right before they start the demo, the presentation with them. They'll fill out some form fills sometimes because they want to see what is going to be that response from the contractor. And look, we've seen some, unfortunately, that we get to the end of the 60 or 90-minute presentation and we're like, hey, look, we just want to let you know while we're talking about lead handling here, how do you handle leads? And they're like, whoa, the leads come in through an email, and then the CSRs will reply back to it. And then we have to break the news to them and say, well, unfortunately, when we started this call 90 minutes ago, we filled out that form and we still haven't been contacted by anybody. So, guys, there is nothing more frustrating than anyone on this call right now that owns a business and you're paying a lot of money to have a lead generated and know that your own team is not handling that lead properly. Because listen, like in 2022, with as many opportunities that are out there and automation and all these cool bells and whistles, we are coming to a point where the baby boomer generation, unfortunately, I hope there's nobody on this call that's from that era, but I mean, like they're almost gone, right? Like they're almost with the yellow book at this point. And we need to start looking at knowing which generation are we servicing, are we trying to market to right now? And I honestly think we're only a couple years away from being at a generation, the only generation that has never been without smartphones and the internet. And that's scary to think about, because when they want something, they want it 5 minutes ago. So when they're like looking someone up and they're like, yeah, my air conditioner's not working, and they get on their phone and they hit send and they put a request in, if we're not responding back to them and going, yes, we can get out there today, or can it wait till tomorrow? We're booked up today. There better be some communication, and we better be in constant communication. And they don't want a lot of talking on the cell phones. They would rather it be text message or some kind of AI communicating with them. So
we're about 4 minutes to the first hour here. So just let you know.
I'm going to be respectful of everybody's time. We may go about 10 minutes over. So lead nurturing is just putting things in place to make sure that when a lead does come in, it's followed up with immediately. So some things that could be is the lead comes in and a text message immediately goes to that customer and says, hey, Shane, we received your information. You're interested in, replacing your new system. Someone from our office is going to be contacting you from this number momentarily, right? And then what we do is we put a forced phone call into your office. And then when they answer the phone, they say, you've got a new lead from Shane Studer. Press any button to be connected. Lead attempt 1 or contact attempt 1. Because if your CSR is not able to make contact with that lead on that first call, it happens, right? Even though someone may be sitting at their phone or their computer and they filled out that form, they may have walked away from their phone. The baby started crying. Somebody knocked at the door. We don't know. But we cannot give up on that lead at one phone call attempt. So we want to make sure that there's a system in place that's nurturing that lead. We'll constantly text, email, drop a ringless voicemail drop to make sure that we are exhausting every opportunity that we possibly have to turn that lead into a book call opportunity. Then the next, hot trend of 2022, I think, is rehash, right? So what are you doing to rehash your opportunities? And I strongly encourage everyone, get some kind of rehash implemented into your business. That could just be simply hiring, a high school kid in the afternoons to come into the business and just placing phone calls to all of those install and service leads or estimates that are out there. All right. We got to understand that for service estimates, if it's somebody that's going to get a second opinion, especially if it's super cold or super hot, we probably have about a 24, 48-hour window max, because if they're without heat or without air conditioning, they're going to make a decision relatively quickly. So we need to make sure that we're following up with that opportunity. If it's for an estimate replacement, well, we've got a little bit more time. People are making a decision. They may just slap a Band-Aid on it, but they know that they're interested in, within the next couple of weeks or months that they're going to replace their system. But we have to keep touching them, keeping your brand in front of them, building that trust and credibility to get that lost opportunity back in the door. So for us, it's building out a rehash program that uses text message, emails, ringless voicemail drops, and forced phone calls from your comfort consultant or selling tech that forces them to make that phone call back to the customer. But again, touching them 6, 7, 8, 12 times if we have to over a series of several weeks, just to make sure that if they're still interested, we want them to be interested in you and not interested in one of your competitors. So again, what is your plan for 2022? You've got a ton of options out there, but just making sure that you're putting the right pieces in place. And I'll tell you, I don't think there's a wrong answer. All right. Like when I say that there's not a wrong answer, doing nothing is the only wrong answer. But just make sure that you're tracking it, making sure that you're putting every possible, exhausting every opportunity as you can to track it, because only then are you going to know, is it working? Should I dump more money into SEO? Should I put more money into PPC or Facebook ads or YouTube ads? But you don't know unless you're tracking it. And I'm just telling you, with digital marketing, it's so easy to track. So make sure that you've got a plan in place to fully be able to track the money that you're putting into your marketing, this year. So what are your top 3 internet marketing initiatives that you're going to implement for 2022? Now, look, we've put a couple here. Forecasting your book leads. You've got to know, how many booked leads do I need to hit my goal? How do you know that? Well, you're going to know that it's based off of your numbers. Because I'll tell you right now, when I look at my book where I used to do sales calls in the past, every contractor had that number. I'm at 2 million. I want to go to 3. I'm at 3.4. I want to go to 4.4. They all had that perfect round number. They have no clue how they're really going to get there. Like, what is it going to take to grow it by $1 million or $2 million or $5 million? It's based off of your numbers. Okay. So when I run some of these things and they have a $7,000 or $6,400 change out, replacement number, it's like you can't really afford to pay $250 for a booked call lead through Google when you've got a $6,000 change out and your margins aren't there, right? So you better have a strong SEO and GMB plan, or you better have a solid guerrilla marketing plan to be able to generate those leads. So it's not always necessarily like a lead generation problem. Sometimes it may be a training problem. It's how do we get a higher install conversion number, right? Like how do we go from a 30% close rate to a 40% close rate? Or how do we go from a $6,000 install to an $8,500 install? So sometimes it's not all about needing more leads. Sometimes it's, maybe needing a little bit of training. But then planning which marketing verticals are you going to use in 2022? Super important. You look at that wheel that we showed, and it's real easy to just get lost on, I want to do them all. All right. And for a lot of our clients, they are doing all of them, but you want to do them all the right way. Like you don't want to put, I want to do email marketing just because I'm supposed to do email marketing. No, because then you're going to send out bad emails that do not impress your customers. It rubs them the wrong way. They hit the unsubscribe button because legally you have to have them an option to be able to unsubscribe. You want to be able to put good, high quality content out there where the people do not want to leave, right? And then, number 3 is, call Cornerstone, right? We would love to help you out and be able to talk to you about your plans and take you to that next level. So we've covered your goals for 2022, how many leads it's going to take to hit your target, your revenue number, the 3 fundamentals of marketing, your success, how to optimize your website 2022, and the big picture, which channels should you be using, which marketing verticals should you be using to maximize your lead flow online. And then some of the trends for 2022 are lead follow-up times, lead nurturing, and then rehash. Get some kind of system in place to be able, I had a client today tell me, he goes, I have over $800,000 in open estimates for 2021 that he had no rehash for. And, you start thinking like, if he could just bring in 10% of that lost opportunity, what would that mean to his business? What would that mean to his, top line revenue? Because it was already lost, right? Like it was gone. He had already written all that money off, those opportunities off. But if there was a system in place to keep nurturing that customer using automation, we don't have to have a human that's calling those people each and every month, but just some kind of automation, it could bring in lost opportunities to your business. So for everybody that, that's still here, if you would like any help, if you have any questions, and I mean that, if you have any questions on how we can help you grow your business, whether we work with you or not, I want to see you guys succeed, and I want to see 2022 be your best year yet. So please, if you want some help, drop in the chat. Let's talk. Or here is Shane's information. So for those who stuck around, we've got the ultimate HVAC checklist. Shane, if you'll drop that into the chat for everyone. And I'm going to leave this screen up right here. So here's Shane's information. Here's his email, shane@thecsms.com. That is Shane's cell phone number there. Text him right now. Let's talk. Drop it in the chat, whatever you'd like to do. If anybody has any questions, Juan said, can you share the link? Yes, he's going to share the link right here in the chat to everyone. We will also be sending this replay out. If you watch it again and you have any follow-up questions, do not hesitate to reach out to Shane or myself. I'm easy to get in touch with. My email is jonathan@thecsms.com. I make myself available to answer any questions you have or help you any way that I possibly can. I mean it when I tell you that we truly believe in relationships first and building those strong relationships with our clients. So I wish you all the best of luck in 2022. I hope every marketing vertical and campaign that you launch, it has the utmost success. And we thank you for your time. And we'll be back next month. Shane will be running another webinar to the entire York channel. So we thank you guys. Y'all have a great day. Thank you.